Welcome to the Wokest Warren, where we have the wokest discourse. Tonight, I'm gonna talk about when I went to college in California. So if that doesn't interest you, you can just turn this off. Well, when I went to college when I was in California, I had a very clear idea of what I wanted to study. I remember my first meeting with my undergraduate advisor there, who was Christian Parenti. I went to this tiny school in the Mission in San Francisco called New College of California. And I had seen ads for it in the newspaper. This is how I chose this college, right? I had seen ads in the newspaper for this college about try this college out. So I Googled it, and it was we didn't even use Google back then, right? I was probably using Yahoo. I looked it up on the internet and read the little synopsis, a 2-paragraph story about how the college was founded. And it was founded in the 1970s by this guy who was a priest who decided to start holding classes in his living room. And now that I look back on that, I'm like, that's really funny, because I would probably try to start a college in my living room. That would be something kooky that I would try to do. But anyway, so yeah, this guy was a priest, and he's like, I'm going to create this alternative education program for social justice. And he did it in his living room. And then, somehow he got money from someone, I don't know who, to build this college. And so it was pretty flimsy affair. The classes, because this was before remote education, so the classes took place in person in this building in San Francisco that used to be a funeral home. And it was really neat because we would walk to class up these ramps. To get from floor to floor, you didn't have to take the steps. You could just go walk up these ramps, because they needed to be able to wheel the gurneys that with the bodies on them from one floor to the other in the funeral home. They had to be able to wheel caskets up and down the steps. So I have absolutely no superstition about funeral homes whatsoever. And I apparently, one of my first apartments in Youngstown was on North Heights. Apparently the landlord, the house is torn down now. It's not there anymore. But there was a funeral home through the backyards. And the landlord had trouble renting the apartments because people did not want to live by a funeral home because they thought that was fucking creepy. To be around dead people. A real thing that would have never crossed my mind. But anyway, I didn't care when I lived in the apartment on North Heights, and I didn't care when I was in San Francisco going to college. So going back to my first meeting with Christian, I was like, okay, so this is what I want to study. I believe that, there's going to be a big time revolution that's going to happen very soon. And after it's over, I want to be one of the people who rebuilds society in a softer image. In other words, I wanted to create the type of communities that you would want to foster a better quality of life, right? Because like a lot of our communities in the United States were designed just so real estate people could make money. That's why they exist. I can point to towns on the map in Ohio that would not exist if it wasn't for someone trying to make money off of real estate. And that's not really how we want our communities to develop, right? So I had fantasized about, when I was at YSU studying geography, I had fantasized about going someplace like Venezuela or Brazil, but mostly Venezuela. You know, you have just like a ton of oil money and you can just build a city from scratch. That's what I wanted to do. That's what I wanted to participate in. And I kept this idea like for years and years and years. I don't know what was wrong with me. I'm really stupid, totally stuck on stupid. Because what Christian should have told me in that meeting is there is not going to be a revolution that is going to happen anytime soon. So you would be better to study to become a revolutionary than to worry about what the world's going to look like after the revolution. But of course he wouldn't have said that to me. I don't even know if I would say that to me now. I think I would, though. I think if somebody came to me and said, you know, I want to design a city to be a place where we could live in harmony after the revolution, I would be like, well, you're putting the cart before the horse. You have to have a revolution first. So I still, you know, maintained this idiotic idea of what I was going to do with my life for years. I mean, I'm talking about like I went to graduate school and studied demographics, like because I wanted to be able to calculate, you know, how much sewage you would expect a city to create based on the birth rate and the death rate and just things that I do not need to know. I don't need to know that, you know? And my advisor in graduate school, Dr. Kent, was never like secretive about where the jobs were. You know, he had said that if we were interested in working for the military, that there were recruiters from the DIA who would be interested in us as candidates. And of course, I'm just like, yeah, like that would never happen. Like that would never happen. I would never work for military intelligence because I'm a Christian. Like I don't believe in it. That is sinful for me to do that. But I did take a class at YSU in remote sensing. And some of the labs that we did in that class were like how to read aerial photographs or I should say in the manner, how you would read aerial photographs in the manner that would be useful for a military operation. And I mean, you know, it was absolutely correct to set the class up that way because the vast majority of people who are using remote sensing right now are using it for drones, to kill people with drones. That's what they do. And it's sad because there's so many other things you can do with that technology. It's not difficult for me to like, you probably can imagine them without any help from me. You know, like the one girl that I went to school with was really into using GPS to put the collars that on pets. Now they chip pets, right? This is like decades before that they did that. And her idea was that you would just have a collar. You'd have a chip on your collar. And then you could find your pets when they got lost. So it's not like I was the only person there that was interested in peaceful adaptations of the technology. Anyway, so I'm 50 years old, and only just now, like this past year, have I really come to grips with the revolution is not going to happen in your lifetime. And it's, you know, the world is going to be destroyed by global warming. So it's kind of like, stop thinking about the cart, move towards thinking about the horse. So at the age of 50, I am discovering how to be a revolutionary. And I am too old to learn new skills. I'm probably not going to be able to really learn anything new. So I'm looking at the skills that I have and figuring out how I could use these for the revolution. And I'm like, well, you know, I know how to watch kids. And I think that I think that, you know, there other people are like medics, and they learn first aid, and they learn how to like patch people up on the battlefield and stuff like that. And that is definitely not for me. So what I think I would do is I would like to just work with children. Other people can go and be revolutionaries, and while they are off fighting the revolution, I can just watch their kids. I think that there are a lot of ways that I can contribute. And I think that caring for children is the best one that I've come up with. So the point of this video is, don't put the cart before the horse, okay? The revolution is more important right now than what happens after the revolution. What happens after the revolution is important, but just let some old people figure that out. Like, you don't need to figure that out. You need to figure out how to make the revolution. You have to figure out how to do the class struggle now, okay? Because the class struggle never ends. You will not waste your time. Like, if there were a revolution tomorrow, the class struggle would still need to be maintained. Or else, you know, what happens? You know, you get like a failed society. So like, my advice to young people is figure out skills that are going to be important for the class struggle. The class struggle. So one of the pathways that people used to do is they used to be attorneys. And that was actually what Christian told me that he thought I should do. He was like, you should be an attorney. Like, you can sue. He's like, you're an environmentalist, you know, you care about the environment. What you can do is you can find all these companies and you can sue them based on existing law. And then, you know, you feed yourself by charging legal fees to the defendants, right? So you win your case and then you get legal fees, and that's how you make your money. And he's like, yeah, I know somebody who does that, and he does pretty well doing it. And I was like, I don't want to be a fucking attorney. Like, there's no goddamn way. I entertained this idea for a couple years, but because the law is pointless. The law, if people don't follow the law, it's pointless. Under capitalism, the law is always going to protect capital. Period. So playing some silly game where you're like, let's take capital's laws and try to use them against itself. It's like, you have to believe in a liberal democracy in order for that to make any sense. And when you realize that the liberal democracy that we live in is a vast illusion, that the society that we live in is powered by capitalism, not fucking democracy, not freedom, not liberty, none of that shit that they told you in civics class. None of that shit they taught you in school, in high school, about, you know, a free society and democracy. That's all fake. All of it is fake. The society is run by the rich. Period. So my advice to young people today is focus on training to become a revolutionary. And then be a revolutionary. Because we need class struggle. That's what we need more than anything. Okay. Thanks for listening.